Hey everyone, Jeff Corwin here. Today I'm taking you deep into the heart of Florida to uncover a story that's as wild as the landscape itself. When you think of Florida, you probably picture endless sandy beaches, world-famous theme parks, and maybe a gator or two basking in the sun. But beneath the surface, there's a hidden drama unfolding, one that most visitors never see. Lurking in the shadows of the Everglades is a quieter but far more dangerous invader. Giant snakes, like the Burmese python, that have found a new home and are thriving in these wetlands. These powerful constrictors, originally from the jungles of Southeast Asia, didn't arrive here by accident. Many were brought in through the exotic pet trade, and over the years, some escaped or were released by overwhelmed owners who had no idea what they were unleashing. Burmese pythons are massive, some grow longer than a minivan, and they're strong enough to swallow a full-grown deer whole. Their natural camouflage makes them nearly impossible to spot, even for experienced hunters. For every python that's caught, experts believe dozens more remain hidden, silently devastating native wildlife. Raccoons, opossums, and marsh rabbits have all but vanished from some areas, and the ecosystem is being thrown dangerously out of balance. And it's not just pythons. Florida's warm, humid climate has become a magnet for other non-native reptiles, like the Argentine tegu and the Nile monitor lizard. Each new arrival brings its own set of problems, threatening local species and habitats in unexpected ways. The python crisis, however, was the tipping point. As the snakes multiplied, the situation grew so dire that officials and residents alike began to consider drastic and sometimes dangerous solutions to try and regain control. The public was alarmed, scientists were desperate for answers, and millions of dollars were poured into python hunts and research. Yet despite all these efforts, the snakes kept multiplying, slipping through the cracks and evading capture. With a single female capable of laying up to 100 eggs at a time, the odds seemed stacked against anyone trying to stop them. Each new clutch meant the problem was growing exponentially, making it feel like an impossible battle. This sense of desperation set the stage for a plan so bold and so risky that it would become a cautionary tale for the ages, a lesson in what can happen when humans and nature collide in unexpected ways. What happened next would change Florida's wild forever, leaving a mark on the landscape and a story that's still being written today. With Burmese pythons multiplying at an alarming rate and outpacing every control effort, the situation in the Florida Everglades was growing more dire by the day. Florida's officials and landowners were desperate, watching helplessly as native wildlife vanished and the ecosystem teetered on the brink of collapse. Bounty hunts and snake-sniffing dogs barely made a dent in the Everglades' vast wilderness. Despite their best efforts, the pythons seemed unstoppable, slipping through the dense undergrowth and multiplying in secret. The ecosystem was in crisis, and the call for a silver bullet solution grew louder. Scientists, conservationists, and local leaders gathered in urgent meetings, searching for answers as the Everglades suffered. That's when a radical idea emerged. Fight a predator with another predator. It was a solution as bold as it was risky, and it quickly captured the imagination of those desperate for hope. The concept, called biocontrol, works in agriculture, like ladybugs eating aphids, but this would be on a massive, unprecedented scale. The stakes were higher, and the risks far greater. What if they could introduce a natural enemy of large snakes to the Everglades? The hope was that these new predators would hunt the pythons, restoring balance to the ecosystem. Critics warned of past disasters, like Australia's cane toads, where well-intentioned introductions spiraled out of control and created new problems. But supporters argued the risk was worth it. They believed that with careful planning and oversight, this time would be different, and the Everglades could be saved. The plan, dubbed Project Eden's Guardian, was approved with millions in funding and overwhelming public support. It was a moment of hope, a chance to turn the tide. The goal, import and release thousands of snake-hunting animals to restore balance. Teams worked around the clock preparing for the largest biocontrol experiment in Florida's history. It was ambitious, controversial, and, as history would show, deeply flawed. The scientific community was divided and the public watched anxiously as the plan unfolded. The stage was set for one of the most dramatic ecological gambles ever attempted in the United States, a gamble that would change the Everglades forever. The search for the perfect python predator began. Two candidates stood out, the Indian gray mongoose and the honey badger. Mongooses are legendary snake hunters, quick, agile, and able to take down cobras in India. The plan was to release thousands of mongooses to target young pythons before they grew too large. Honey badgers, famous for their toughness and fearlessness, were chosen to tackle adult pythons. Together, they'd form a two-pronged attack on the python population. Special breeding facilities were built, and the media celebrated these new heroes. Hope soared as people imagined these animals saving Florida's wildlife. But nature doesn't follow scripts, and no one was prepared for what came next. The real battle was just beginning. In the spring of 2024, a bold experiment unfolded in the heart of the Everglades. Helicopters thundered overhead, releasing crates packed with mongooses and honey badgers into the vast Florida wetlands. The plan was simple: unleash these fierce predators to help control the exploding population of invasive Burmese pythons that had been devastating native wildlife for years. Early footage seemed promising. Cameras captured mongooses darting through the sawgrass, and a viral video of a honey badger devouring a massive python quickly spread online, fueling hope and excitement. Conservationists and the public alike were optimistic that this unconventional solution might finally tip the scales in favor of native species. But the optimism didn't last long. Instead of focusing on pythons, mongooses quickly turned their attention to easier prey. They raided the nests of ground-nesting birds, feasted on turtle eggs, and even disturbed alligator nests. The Everglades, teeming with vulnerable eggs and hatchlings, became a buffet for these opportunistic hunters. Honey badgers, meanwhile, proved just as disruptive. They dug up gopher tortoise burrows, destroying vital shelters that hundreds of native species depend on for survival. Their powerful claws and relentless curiosity left a trail of destruction, collapsing burrows and exposing animals to predators and the harsh Florida sun. Both species ignored the original plan, preying on whatever was easiest to catch. The carefully crafted strategy to target pythons was quickly unraveling as the new arrivals adapted to their environment in unexpected and troubling ways. Alarmed scientists began to notice the consequences almost immediately. Bird and turtle nesting success rates plummeted, and mongooses spread rapidly into new territories, even reaching the Florida coast. The ripple effects were felt across the ecosystem. Honey badgers, emboldened and unafraid, broke into chicken coops and wandered near homes, sparking new conflicts with people. Their fearless nature made them a challenge for both wildlife managers and local residents. What was meant to be a solution was quickly spiraling into a much bigger problem. The Everglades' delicate balance was being pushed to the brink. Habitats were damaged, native species were threatened, and the ecosystem's intricate web began to unravel before anyone could intervene. The animals weren't just ignoring the script, they were rewriting it entirely, forcing everyone to reconsider what control really means in a wild place, like the Everglades. The first cracks in the project's foundation were now impossible to ignore. Scientists and conservationists faced tough questions about the risks of introducing new predators. The unintended consequences had only begun, and the true cost of this experiment was just starting to reveal itself. The initial problem snowballed into a full-blown ecological disaster. Mongooses, thriving on abundant food, preyed on native snakes, lizards, and mammals, competing with native predators and decimating vulnerable species. Honey badgers destroyed gopher tortoise burrows, erasing critical shelter for hundreds of animals. Their combined impact devastated native wildlife, with no escape for many species. Ironically, the new predators sometimes helped pythons by eliminating their native competitors. The Everglades became a battleground of invasive species, with chaos replacing balance. The grand plan had failed. Now there were 3 invasive threats instead of 1. The cost to Florida's ecosystem was staggering. The mongoose invasion became a textbook case of unintended consequences. In the Florida Keys, mongooses spread rapidly, wiping out endangered species like the Key Largo wood rat and cotton mouse. Bird colonies suffered, with entire nesting seasons lost to egg and chick predation. The once vibrant rookeries fell silent. Mongooses also became a suburban and agricultural menace, raiding chicken coops and even entering homes. Their numbers exploded, outpacing any control efforts. Conservationists watched decades of work unravel in months. The state, once hopeful, now faced the costly task of mongoose eradication. The saviors had become one of Florida's worst pests. A well-intentioned plan had gone horribly wrong. If mongooses were a plague of numbers, honey badgers were a plague of attitude. Fearless and destructive, they raided farms, destroyed beehives, and clashed with people. Watermelon and cantaloupe fields were ravaged, and beekeepers suffered huge losses. Encounters with humans became common and sometimes dangerous. Despite their reputation, honey badgers rarely targeted pythons, preferring easier prey. Their reign brought chaos, not balance, to the Everglades. The state issued warnings, but the damage was done. The Guardians had become a public menace. By late 2025, Project Eden's Guardian was declared a failure, but the damage was irreversible. Florida now faced 3 entrenched invasive species: pythons, mongooses, and honey badgers. The Everglades soundscape changed, birdsong replaced by silence, burrows destroyed, and native wildlife in retreat. The financial cost soared, with eradication programs draining resources from other conservation efforts. The project left a deep scar on the conservation community, fueling distrust of large-scale biocontrol. Eden's Guardian became a cautionary phrase, a symbol of good intentions gone wrong. The lesson: ecosystems are complex, and quick fixes can shatter them. You can't just add a new piece and expect it to fit. The puzzle of nature is easily broken and hard to repair. Florida's wild would never be the same. Florida's failed war on pythons is a lesson in humility and responsibility. Nature isn't a machine to be tinkered with, it's a web of relationships built over millennia. The belief that a new predator could fix everything was arrogant, not scientific. The real solution is prevention. Secure the pet trade, educate the public, and stop invasives before they start. Once an invader is established, there are no easy fixes. Animals like honey badgers and mongooses follow their instincts, not our plans. In Florida, they found easy prey, not a heroic battle. The true guardians of the Everglades are its native species. Protecting them, and the ecosystem's integrity, is the only real path forward. We tried to play God, and the result was a paradise lost, a lesson the world won't soon forget.